What is it that I can share with you for my personal stories or my business stories? You know, what is the most important message that I can bring for you? So let me start with something that I inherited and I learned as a programmer. So the most important thing that I learned as a programmer is to think about abstractions. So I think about the universe and I try to simplify the universe in very simple things. And as a programmer, I learned how to think in a very abstract way. Because the best programmer are the simplest abstraction. So you have the power of taking something very complex and bringing into very simple abstractions. Now I use that simple abstractions and the way I think about programming, and now I apply it to the way I look at art, the way I look at businesses, the way I deal with people, the way I think about politics, the way about thinking about change. What are the important changes we need to bring? So don't think that being a programmer, it has a universal application, is to think in a very abstract way. And the abstractions I tell you, I think the best politicians would be people who are programmers, the best business people, the best trader in Wall Street, the best business people now. And our goal and mission as technologies programmers is to impact not just technology, is to impact all industries, from politics all the way down to transportation, to energy, to medicine, to you name it, financial services, insurance. So it's a very big opportunity when you learn how to think very abstractly. The application is very large. So that's one message I wanted to for you to think about, is that the language of the programmer and the way we think about things as programmer is about simplification and bringing complex things and simplifying them, and use that simplification to create useful things and build useful tools and useful applications. So that's one that I was excited to share, and I think about everything every day of my life in the same way. It started when I was very young, like you. I started when I was programming when I was 16 years old, and I came from Iran, and we had no computer in Iran. The first computer I saw was in a school in England. That's because of the revolution in my country. I left Iran, I came to England, and that's where I first saw a computer. But the thing that was interesting was not only the computer, the people who were using the computer was also interesting to me. So I was not only interested about the computer itself, but I thought I understand these people around the computer better. So I could relate to them, I can talk to them, and I thought they were very creative. And back then, they were also against the norm. Very few people were using computers. I was fortunate to end up in America. I was fortunate to go to Berkeley. That was the birth of Unix. That's where Unix got created. I worked in the Unix lab. I was fortunate to know C language as I knew Persian, English, C language very well. And in 1985, there was a small company who was based in Seattle who needed a computer programmer to design compilers. And this small company was Microsoft, and me and my two other friends from the Unix lab, we used C to write a compiler for Pascal, or to use C to write a compiler for Fortran for the Microsoft system back then. And it was the beginning of a journey for me and my journey hasn't finished yet. So first I lived my life as a programmer, and then I think about many interesting problems when I left and worked for Oracle. Oracle was very small, 600 people when I joined them, and I was there for 10 years. I worked on some very interesting abstract problems. That's why I wanted to stay there, because every 6 months, a year, I used to think about a new problem. And my mind was being exercised. And that exercise was very empowering for me. And I enjoyed it very much. I tell you a story about Oracle. I had this project I was working on. So not only I'm a programmer, but I'm also competitive. So I like to win. And we had a project within Oracle. Oracle was small, and we wanted to compete with another company, and we had intelligence that the other company is going to bring a new database technology on the Intel chip, new chip called 386. How many of you know 386 chips? This is 25 years ago. Okay. It's a long time ago, and they were going to be first. And me and 2 guys from MIT, 2 guys from Berkeley, 1 guy from Caltech, it was 5 of us. We had a pact that we are going to not let the other company to beat us to the market. It was 5 of us. I asked somebody earlier how many people are in the team. They said 4 or 5 people. 5 of us. We not only had to build the database, but the 386 didn't have memory management, limited memory. So we had to write an operating system to put the database on top of it. So we had to do 2 projects in 1 project. And for 3 months, we lived like you in our office. We did not leave the building for 90 days. That was our pact. We stayed together for 90 days. We took shower. We ate. We had no alcohol was allowed for 90 days. No beer, nothing, for 90 days. So we just were in a zone. And we wanted to stay in that zone together. And we didn't want to interact with anybody. So we told our boss, we don't want to see any manager, we don't want to see any salespeople. We want to only think and very quickly execute on this our project. And I remember that literally within day 84, 85, we finished everything, but there was a bug. There was a bug in the software. We couldn't find the bug. 5 of us were looking at the code was breaking at the same place. And we keep looking at the software over and over and over again. We couldn't find the bug. And it was not consistent. So we couldn't figure out a pattern of how we are hitting a bug. Why are we having this issue? It works. Once out of 100 times, it doesn't work. And we were just going mad that this was the last thing we had to finish. And one of my friends, he said, what if the bug is not ours? We actually found a bug on the chip. There was the clock, the cycles of the refreshing of essentially the memory system and the CPU were out of sync. So it would happen every so often, and we found it. So my story is that it's to be creative. Not only you have to think in a very abstract way, not only you have to be able to be creative in a zone, you have to really work hard as a team to be creative. It doesn't happen by one person. It takes a team together to be creative and to produce good work. And sometimes one man's eyes need another man and another woman's eye to see the problem. Your own eye cannot see it all the time. So you need more than one person to see it, so you'll be able to work and help with each other on the programs. So I went off, and my Oracle years was great. Not only I learned at Oracle the way to think about abstractions of very interesting problems, parallel computing, parallel algorithms, machine learning, big data, indexing, indexing very large data, real-time systems, getting the checking account balance correct everywhere in the world. When the computer is one place, but you're transacting somewhere else, how do you do all of that stuff? Things that people think is very simple is very, very hard problems to get accurate data. I learned a lot about as an engineer, but I also learned about a very successful business called Oracle. So I learned that the success is not just the technology and the product and the abstractions of the product and engineering and the science, but the abstractions about the business. That how does a business think about, in a very simple way, to build a scalable business. So I watched Larry Ellison, how he built that business. And I was a very good student. I keep watching him how he makes decisions, watching him how he makes decisions about people, how he thinks about his market, how he thinks about organization, how he thinks about process. All watched him. It was a creative process, not only to see the Oracle and the technology, but also the creative process of building a company, a very successful company. It is a very creative process, no different than writing a program, building a successful business, because you have to put all the pieces together, and you need to make all the pieces work together. They're all the same. They're both similar thought process. And it was then I decided that I was ready to start my own company. I started 3 companies. Within a few years, I took 2 of them public, and 1 of them I sold. I made fortune. I had wealth. Then I started investing in other entrepreneurs. And I found last night I had a dinner with a friend. She asked me, "What do you think is your purpose now?" I said, "I'm only a gatekeeper now. I open up the gate, I close the gate. I don't want anything now. I want everything go through me." Make sense? So that is why I'm here, is to help you through my experience, to give you my experience of what I've learned. And that's what I do. I meet a lot of people like you. I spend a lot of time with people like you, not only about their career, but also about what is possible. What are the possibilities? So I said enough. I'm sure there is no question, right?
J'espère que c'est pas vrai. Une question, évidemment.
Okay, let me ask a question then. Oh, what do you have a question? You go first.
Listening to you. Oh, okay. Listening to you, I understood that what made the difference between you and someone else, I'd say, is hardworking, but I believe there's something else, and I can't figure out what, and I'd like to have your opinion about that.
I mean, if the question is around what it takes to be a successful entrepreneur, well, I think I give you after 30 years, I'm going to give you my tricks. Are you ready for it? You better write it down. Okay. There are 5 very important ways that I look at when I make an investment. And the same 5 things you can use as an entrepreneur to make a decision of whether something is good, worthwhile to go after. When I look at the opportunity, the very first thing that I examine is people. and the motivation of people. Because I like people who are obsessed. But I like people who are obsessed in the right way, not for the wrong reason. So obsession is extremely important as an entrepreneur, because you cannot be creative unless you're obsessed with the problem. So number one, I would ask myself whether you are obsessed with what you want to do. Because if you don't have obsession, you will not have the fire to win. Number two, I would look at, when I have an idea or a product or a technology, I question the potential. I have to be able to articulate mathematically the potential of my idea. I can calculate how many systems I sell, how many customers I can have, how big is the market, how much people are willing to pay for it, why would they pay for it. I call it the second P. First was the people, which is the motivation of people. Secondly is the potential of the idea. The third one, I need to have a product that is differentiated from the competitor. And the only way you can differentiate yourself from competitor is if you can learn faster than competitor. Not what it is today. What do you need to do to learn faster than your competitor? That's the third P, the product. The fourth P, which is really also very, very important, is the predictability. You cannot build a business by doing custom solution. This is not, in our business, technology business, it's extremely important that you have repeatable business, not one at a time business. So those are the four Ps: people, the product, the potential, and predictability. It has to be predictable, scalable. The fifth one is, for me as an investor, is the price I pay for it. Okay, not for you, but for me. Because the price has to be right for me. I don't invest, I earned my money really hard, so I have to invest it in the right way. So there's ways to think about it. So there is a process that you need to follow. So instincts are good, motivations are good, but also you need to be very disciplined as an entrepreneur to examine ideas. So you could get many ideas, but you need to have a process to think about an idea. It cannot be just creative. It has to be very disciplined process. So you have to examine the idea very carefully. I tell you one other thing that it worked for me all my life. It's easy to be successful and to win when people like you. You need to have a lot of people orientation as an entrepreneur to motivate people to be with you, because you cannot do it by yourself. You have to encourage other people to join you with your idea. So you have to have leadership quality in you. So not only you have to be smart and think abstractly about many things, but you have to have leadership quality where people want to be with you. If people don't want to be with you, you won't be successful, for sure. Question, please.
Hi, Bobby. I'm a passionate entrepreneur, and I wanted to know what does exactly working with a business angel look like? I mean, when you launch a company, you have all this venture capitalist funds. What is the relationship between a business angel and an entrepreneur? Is it different? Do you follow your companies? Do you keep track of their progress? I mean, how do you work with entrepreneurs?
Yeah, in my case, I have the entire process with my entrepreneurs, because my job is not just to give them capital, but my job is to develop them as an entrepreneur. So in our case, it's different. Everybody has their own way. But in majority of our investment, we have three very important assets that we bring to our entrepreneur. Number one, the things that we bring them is our tools. We have management tools that we have developed that we train our entrepreneurs to use. For instance, how do you build a strategy? Most of people don't even know how to think about a strategy. So we have to train them about a strategy. Then we train them on operational model. What is the operation of a business should look like? And then, of course, we do financial planning, capital management, organizational design, many, many things. It's a system. Business is a system. And every aspect of the system needs to be designed. You need to think through everything. The business is not the product. The business is much bigger than the product. So we train them on that. The second thing that we do for entrepreneurs is, of course, the capital. And the third thing that we do for our entrepreneur is our relationship. We know a lot of people. So we want to give access to our entrepreneurs if they need relationship. Those are the three things that we do and this is so important for France and the ecosystem here, because the culture has to be open to entrepreneur. So not only I'll give you capital, I do not like to police entrepreneurs. So my mindset is not a police culture. My mindset is a development culture. I want to develop my entrepreneur because I already know the entrepreneur maybe don't have the experience. So I have to have a development mindset, not a police mindset. I give you money, so you have to do X. This is the old-fashioned way of thinking about this. And then, of course, access. Business relationships are very important for our entrepreneurs. So if you don't get that, be careful about those people. If they don't have a vision how to develop you, I would be very cautious about people like that. Question?
Merci. If I could say something about what you said, me and some friends are making a company inside 42, and we have the chance to meet a business angel. And what he said is very true. But je peux le faire en français parce que je suis vraiment pourri en anglais. Bon, je vais essayer. Ça fait rire le monde apparemment. Non, c'est cool, t'inquiète. What he said is very true because the guy the business angel that I meet told us very clearly what was the problem with our organization, and also told us that he liked us very much, and he would give us Maintenant je tremble, c'est pas marrant.
What's that here?
Bonjour.
Vous êtes sympathique avec mon invité aujourd'hui?
Je les trouve plutôt super interactifs et très bien. Continuez comme ça, c'est vraiment bien.
Hello.
Ah, ok.
Non mais franchement, je suis en train de danser les claquettes, c'est pas marrant.
We started the presentation.
Il a posé la question au mauvais moment.
En plus.
They speak perfect English, it's fantastic.
No, they're not shy.
Shy not.
But
Sorry.
Pardon. Comment on dit conclure en anglais?
Comment on dit?
Conclure.
Conclusion.
To conclude what I was saying, to make it fast, je danse. The business angel gave us the chance to nous mentorer.
Mentor.
To mentor us, and we have this. Ok, non, j'y arrive plus. On a la chance d'être suivi par un business angel Non, j'y arrive plus là, j'ai l'estomac qui s'est retourné. Non, c'est trop. Et tu peux te faire suivre par des business angels même s'ils ne donnent pas d'argent, et pour ton organisation et pour avoir eu la chance d'avoir eu une très bonne relation avec ce genre de personnes, ça peut vraiment être intéressant pour toi même si ça ne met pas d'argent en jeu pour tes relations.
Just as a translation, essentially what this young man was saying is that you can have a relationship with a business angel without having the capital involved, but having the mentoring relationship that can be very fruitful to help you develop your business.
Yeah, one of the key things that we teach our entrepreneurs is that the cluster that they're connected with is very important because it influences their mind, influences their culture. So you need to be very careful about the people around you. Also, you need to be very thoughtful about what is the important cluster that you need to connect to help you for the future. You need to think about that. People are the most important thing. Question, please.
My question is really more about how do you build a relationship, a personal relationship with an entrepreneur, and how is it different with working with the people you work with every day? Because when there is capital involved, I think it's really important that the personal relationship it's not too much important, because if it's failed, you don't know how you're going to say to the people involved that they failed and they owe you money somehow. So that's my question.
Well, I think first of all, when you have venture capitalists and angel investors or what have you, I mean, you want to look at their reputation and their experience. In our culture in US, failure is not a negative thing. In our culture, people who have failed viewed positively, because that means you have experience and you've experienced something that is added to you now. So we don't look at failure, we look at failure as an experience for one person. That's number one. But
so
this
Bobby, that's a very, very important point for all of you from the French system, where failure is not admissible. It's how not to build a light bulb.
But as a programmer, you understand that you test, and you test, and you test more, and you try new ideas, and you find better algorithms, simpler ways, and more efficient ways. And I think the trial is really important in a business the same way. You need to think about it in the same way as a programmer, in an abstract way. One of the things that is important culture-wise, to be a successful programmer, we all have many tricks to solve the problem. But at the end of the day, the program has to work. So the culture, the relationship, and the culture with the investor or with the team has to be of transparency. It has to be open. You should not be afraid to be transparent. That is the best policy. If you build everything on transparency, then you have nothing to worry about because you have one story. And that's the only way. Question, please.
I'd like to know what's your opinion on what an entrepreneur should have as qualities or talents or interests? What is it you look for in a young person to believe in that person?
I kind of commented on it a little bit earlier. I mean, I am obsessed with obsessed people. So I like the people. Again, it comes from probably my programming background. I mean, I used to go to these Zens and I used to program for days after days after days, and I was obsessed. And without those obsessions, I wouldn't work as hard. I wouldn't be as committed to solving things. So I think I look for honest, obsessed people. So that's one, because I think it's very important. I like people who can articulate abstract ideas. That again should relate to you. Whether it's a business, whether it's a market, whether it's a product, you need to be able to describe your ideas in a very abstract form. You have to simplify it. Because the more you can simply speak about your idea, that means you're closer to it. So I look for that and I listen to it. How clearly they're articulating the abstraction of their business or the opportunity or the product. So I like to obsess people who think in a very abstract way. And the third thing I told you, it's easier for me to see people who are well liked to be successful. So I like people who can attract other people, because I don't believe you can build a successful business without attracting people around you. So you have to have leadership quality to lead people, to bring people together, to attack a very hard problem in a very abstract way.
And how do you go about like assessing the leadership quality?
Yeah, so it's hard to say that we know. We never know because we deal with people. But at least we can assure some level of success by putting our time next to them. So the way some of the things I do with my entrepreneurs, they travel with me. I take them to board meetings. I want them to benchmark their performance against other performance of other entrepreneurs. So I have some really great entrepreneurs, and I don't have to do anything, but I have to show an entrepreneur to another entrepreneur to, just like you guys, when you program, you have teams who correct each other here. You can benchmark your own performance against your team member, huh? So I think it's the same way. I like to give good examples to my entrepreneurs or show good examples to my entrepreneurs, because it's a development process.
Thank you.
Let's go here. You've been. This side of the room hasn't asked a question. 0, 5.
My question would be about time, I guess. All the projects that you support and invest in, I guess, are different, but all the projects that you have probably don't have the same timeline. I guess, like for example,
cancer.
Yeah,
we're trying to find. We think cancer is a big data problem.
Yeah.
So it's gonna take many years to figure it out. But
yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah, my question would be: some projects are certain to not succeed until 5, 10, maybe 20, like maybe 50 years. I don't know. Big problems, like yesterday's Rosetta thing that took 20 years. Sure. That was a problem for a big company. But I feel that we see on the startup scene a lot of smaller projects that will be maybe make money in 2, 3, 5 years. But what's your take on bigger problems that can be solved in maybe 10 years? How can startups start in big projects like that?
Yeah. Well, I'm probably not the right guy to ask that, because I have limited capital to deploy. So for me, the project that I can take on has to fit to what I can afford to invest in. So we have a very specific model in terms of what we invest and what we don't invest to start with. But having said that, there is plenty of capital in the world that look for big ideas. So you should not be concerned that there is no capital available for big project, for big ideas. But you also have a harder job to articulate the opportunity. That means you have to think very abstractly. You need to be able to articulate the idea very well. So the way you would essentially sell the story is very different from a small project versus a big project. But you can comment on this yourself. I mean, there are people who are looking for big ideas all the time and big opportunities. But you need bigger teams. You need better plans. You need better abstractions to support those projects.
But is there a difference in the spirit of the team as being a big team and we get to smaller team for a small project? Like, I know you said Oracle was 600 people, it was small. I wouldn't call that 600 people small, but that's just me. Does it take a different mindset being a 600 people team or 5 people team?
Of course. I mean, you look at Tesla in United States and what they've done with that company. It took government support. It took large venture capital support. It took the founder's capital, significant amount of his own. Musk put a lot of his own money on the line. And they were maybe about 250 people for many years, and then 1,000 people for many years. Of course, bigger projects, different level of experience, process experience, culture varies. And there is no one cookie cutter answer for small or big projects. But Musk was very experienced. He was not only good about articulating his idea, but he was very good about the politics of money and getting the government, getting big venture capital, being angel investors, supporting him. He was very well liked. People liked him. Therefore, he is successful now. So it takes a lot to be like him. Of course, he's one that everybody inspired to right now. He's very inspiring character and what he's done. I don't have a better answer.
That's an answer.
I want to give these guys a chance on this side. Question.
I'm concerned about what you talked about scalability about a project. What will be the major factor to look for the scalability for a project? Like, for example, I'd say maybe a website would be the easier type of business to scale because of the costs and but I don't know. In fact, I don't have a.
It's a hard question to ask. It's even a harder way to answer it. I mean, I don't use the word scalable. I use the word predictable. Is as important. I think you want a business that's predictable and repeatable. Those are better businesses that you can repeat the same thing over and over again and have a single process can repeat many, many times, generate many sales or generate many products or many type of a customer. So really at the end of the day, I think it's not a website or a program or a product. You need to look at many things. You have to ask yourself, can I build an organization? Can I build a product? Can I build a process? Can I build a message that's repeatable? And all of those things kind of have to work together. Message has to work, the process has to work, the product has to work. It has to be simple business. Simplicity is the message. You got to keep things simple. Question?
We have time for about 3 more questions. We're going to have to get Bobby going. So.
Okay.
I wanted to ask you, what is the most common flaw you find in the projects you're evaluating? Like the thing that makes you say no?
I mean, I would say no to people. The people have to be, I would say the people are the most important aspect. The people, the team, the spirit of the people and the team. And why are they there? What is the motivation of people? The motivation of people are really important for me. Because I know how hard it is to build a business. And it takes a lot to build a successful business. So I think the motivation is really important. The other thing is I will be very careful about false positives. So early positive signs could be false positives. So you have to be cautious about false positives. So your sample has to be big enough to know whether the idea has a potential. So I would be careful about that. So I pay attention to the sample data. And how big is the sample? Is the sample right? Is it a false positive? Is it fooling you? Is the test is lying to you or not? So I pay attention to that. I pay attention to the depth of the product. And I pay attention to the abstractions of the product. How have they think about the core abstractions? Whether it's the business model abstraction or technology abstraction, doesn't matter. But there has to be defensible abstractions in the product or the idea. It took 25 years. I can't explain all of it to you in one shot. Go ahead.
So you said that 2 of your 3 companies went public.
Yes.
Yes, and how old they were? I mean, how mature should be a company to go public?
You know, one of them was mature. One of them was ill-matured, were poorly executed. You know, America is very forgiving, and sometimes you have opportunities to access capital through public market. I took a chance in one of the companies because I thought I need to take that risk. So it's a combination of things, maturity of the business, but also the environment. You need to look at both. Because I was looking for the cheap capital. So it was cheaper for me to go to public market to get capital than to get it from private market. So it's complex, the question you're asking. But today, I think the world is more interested in more mature companies. Public markets are not forgiving, are very hard to be a public company. In America, it's very, very hard to be a public company. And capital is more available than 20 years ago or 15 years ago. So you have less reasons to go public. And it's better to stay flexible and be able to move faster by being private. At least up to a certain size, certain scale. It's a very complex question.
But is it healthy, really healthy for, let's say, healthy for the company, for early stage company startups to go very early?
No, unless you have a repeatable, predictable business model, unless you have the organization strength, the people strength, unless you have a strong process in place, I don't recommend that. Let's go over here.
There are 5 tricks, and the product is one among them. And I know that in business there are more things than just the product.
Yeah.
So we are many developers here. So and usually we are focused on the product. And sometimes it's just not the only thing, and we lose focus on the whole business. So do you have some advices so we can keep focus on the whole and not just on the product?
I mean, we started that earlier. I think, as I said, I started as a programmer. I found in what you do, I found a strength that I can apply to many things, and that is the strength to look at things in a very abstract way and simplify things. I think that mindset and that approach is applicable in many things. So I think what you do strengthens you. As a programmer, you're strengthened analytically, and it's applicable in many things. I look at art in the same way. I listen to music in the same way. I look at business in the same way. So I think don't lose the fact that programming is not just about writing software. It's more than, it's a mindset that really helps you in many things you do. That's number one. Number two, I think that conversation that we had around the network and the clusters. I think the best and the fastest and the most impactful way to learn is to interact. The more you interact, the faster you learn. And you need to interact with as many interesting people around you as possible. Whether they're politicians, whether they're business leaders, whether they're artists, whether they're product designers, whether they're architects, it doesn't matter. I think interactions with people, I mean, sometimes we think as programmers, you know, we want to go to our zone, in that programming zone. But I think you can also learn by moving yourself out and interacting with people and listening and having the listening skills and learning through them. So I think interactions are really important to strengthen, you know, beyond the product. Relationships in business are very important. And then, you know, research. I mean, I read hours and hours and hours a week, a day. I mean, I just, you know, it's not a God gift. I do my work. I travel with this much reading material next to me all the time. You know, I'm always reading. I'm trying to do research. I want to predict the future by looking at you, people like you. I read about people who are working on the next thing and say, what is the future? What is going to be? Is this or is it that? And I want to be part of it. So you got to do the work. Relationships are important. Interactions are important. Strengthening your abstracting thinking is important. But at the end of the day, I think you learn a lot from people.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Bobby.